Welcome to the Startup of the Year podcast, where each episode we showcase exciting new companies from around the world. This podcast is produced by Established, creators of the Startup of the Year program. Established is focused on helping organizations with their innovation, startup, and communication strategies.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Start the Year podcast. I'm Frank Gruber, co-founder and co-CEO of Established, co-founder of Established Ventures, and the team behind the Startup of the Year community and this very podcast. Thank you for listening. In this episode, we're going to hear a special conversation between Andrew Nguyen from Bark and Matt Hunckler from Powderkeg. They talked about product strategy and the product mindset at our 9th annual Startup of the Year Summit. Andrew is a customer-obsessed product leader who builds products for consumers. He's a human-centered problem solver with decades of experience leading product teams across the companies like Bark, Zappos, Capital One, and AOL, where he was on e-commerce, finance, media, and advertising products. He's also shipped several award-winning, highly rated mobile apps and web experiences for millions of happy customers. And so we had the pleasure of having him join us in Tampa to share some of his product expertise and mindset. And now he's over at Bark, which started as BarkBox, which was a subscription service when they were super hot. And now they still do that, but they also have other products, BarkBox, Super Chew, as well as an e-commerce platform called barkshop.com. So a lot going on over there. And what wouldn't be more interesting than working for a company that's very pet or dog-centric? As a pet owner or dog owner, actually, I appreciate that, and I hope all the dog lovers out there do as well. So thank you for what you do, Andrew, and thank you for being here. But before we get started with that interview, we actually started a new session or segment on the Start of the Year podcast here. It's going to shine a light on some of the folks in our community, because we have a community of thousands of startup founders and different companies, and we're going to start bringing one to the forefront every episode. So our first company is actually a company called PlaneAhead. They are interesting if you're a traveler, especially because it takes full advantage of termination of airline change fees. And so basically something you can all take advantage of if we're a flyer. The way it works is they track your purchased itinerary the day, from the day you buy it to the day it takes off, and then the price of your ticket. If it goes down, they automatically exchange the ticket and sell you the airline credit from the change. So it sounds pretty interesting. If you're interested in checking out more about it, go to PlaneAhead, like airplane, planeahead.co to learn more. And we appreciate PlaneAhead being a part of our community. So check it out and learn more there. All right, now let's jump into that conversation with Andrew and Matt.
I am so excited to have this conversation, and it's going to be a quick one. So I want to dive right in. We've got someone with over a decade of product experience here. Someone I actually got the chance to hang out a couple times on Clubhouse during the pandemic, but now we're meeting for the first time in person. So it's awesome to be here with all of you and get to chat live in front of y'all. Andrew, I know you've had a ton of experience at Zappos, Capital One, now leading product at BarkBox. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got into product in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, humbled and honored to be here. There's amazing things that's going on throughout the day. So thanks for sitting here with us and just having a conversation together. Getting into product, Matt, gotta have a shout out to, Fletch in the room. You got Jen, of course, Jen Consalvo, Frank Gruber, and we share something in common. We came from AOL. That's where I got my feet wet, and right time, right place, right people. A little bit of luck. Seeing the intersection between creating product strategy, really just the technology behind it, the design, the business aspects, and having a pure appreciation across all three aspects. That's what product is all about. And so I was lucky to be in the area of these wonderful people that saw that aspiration and nurtured that and helped give me my first break. So that's that customer obsession and building products that make people happy. That's ultimately what it came down to, and finding the right opportunity, right people.
I'd love to ask just a little bit about the AOL days of product. I'm sure there was a lot you learned there because it was your first product role, but was there anything that surprised you about the approach to product that really helped make it successful at AOL?
Oh, sure. I think there's just a fantastic storied history around product management and AOL. And in case people don't have some of that history, Netscape was acquired by AOL, and some of the well-known people, Mark Andreessen, Ben Horowitz, some of the most resounding product figures in the space, they spent some time over there, set up some of the culture, and let alone other people that ran through AOL stores. So I think part of what made it great is that product was nascent and still is in so many ways. A lot of people are just figuring out what product means for them. So I think that history, building that foundation, what it meant for a shrink-wrap product, and what it meant for a digital product that had rapid iterations, and you don't necessarily have to think about the first version and nailing it right, but lean methodologies and whatnot. That evolution starting from day zero, I believe set the precedent for AOL, and it carried on. If you look at, you hear PayPal Mafia, well, look up the AOL Mafia, and you'll see that spread out through the industry very, very widely. So I think that history, day zero, being around for all of it, I think that was the embodiment of that culture and success.
That's awesome that you were able to forge your product career in that environment. And I know you've seen a lot of different product cultures along the way. I'm sure you've seen a lot of high-functioning product teams. You've probably seen some product teams with dysfunction, because pretty much every startup team has dysfunction in some way, shape, or form. We can cover the dysfunction stuff after the functional stuff. What do you think really helps product teams build great products when you think about that culture and environment that you have on any team?
Oh, great question, Matt. I think I feel strongly that culture eats strategy for breakfast. You might see a poster around it. I really feel that way. And it really varies on how you look at product, but that's where I stem from. And Brian Murphy, he mentioned, hey, at any given point in time, the company knows what are the three most important things, what are the three questions that they ask. That's part of the culture that you set up. So building that kind of culture, setting the right company mission and vision, and actually put some meaning behind it, and actually lead by example. I think those are the aspects that really help set up a high-performing product culture. And the rest that follows, the strategy, the execution, the leadership and vision, that whether it's a digital or physical product, that carries into it. It's a distillation of those things. So if you truly mean those things, and you collect the kind of people, the kind of talent that believe it as much as you do, if not even more in some cases, that will help set you up for success. So missionaries over mercenaries, as we like to say.
I love that. Do you have any anecdotes from any of the places that you've been and led product at that kind of bring a couple of those different core values to life?
Sure. So, immediately what comes to mind, my time over at Zappos. So shout out to Jen Lim. You'll see her book out there. Definitely scoop. Oh, there. Fantastic. Beyond Happiness. So co-founder of Delivering Happiness, and the mission of Zappos, deliver happiness. Mission of BarkBox, deliver happiness. The dogs, make all dogs happy. And we really mean it through and through. So the core values that Zappos has set up, there's 10 core values. And typically, you've been at your various companies. Some companies take it more seriously than others. It's a fairly democratic process that happened over at Zappos, and hundreds of core values distilled into 10. And it was all purely organic, and we meant every single word of it. And this was no separation between professional and personal life. And I think that is exceptionally key. You bring your whole self to work. You reduce the things that might separate yourself and how you carry yourself through and through. Setting up those core values, Zappos is probably the number one example that I can think of. And I promise you, you see a Zapponian at the grocery store, they'll carry themselves the same way as they would at work in any other setting. So I try to carry that on and be a leading example of that wherever I go.
I remember getting a tour of Zappos maybe around 2010, 2011 timeframe, and you could just feel the vibe and the energy in that office. What's the vibe like at BarkBox, particularly like in the product section? Like, do you all sit together? Does everyone have their own private office? What's the general kind of like collaboration and cadence of maybe some of those stand-ups or product reviews or road mapping?
Sure. Yeah. So it's a bit tricky in this hybrid environment. So mostly we've been remote, and I guess we virtually sit alongside each other. So there's a variety of different models where I see product teams, and there's no right or wrong way, but I've seen organizations where you have respective product folks sit within their product development teams mostly. And then you have a community of practice. You come together frequently, once a week, once a month, whatever that cadence is right for you. There's no right or wrong way, but again, going back into the culture that you want to set and where you want to over-index on. So for us over at BarkBox, it's a combination of those things. I would say we over-index on product people spending a lot of their time with, I would say, their micro companies. So think of it as startups within a bigger startup. They're all CEOs, respective CEOs, product decision makers within their product development team that's inclusive of engineers, designers, QA, et cetera. So they spend their time as a micro company family, so to speak, and they gel, build that chemistry. And that's how we like it. And we have our community of practice where we're on Slack most of these days, and we're exchanging messages all the time. And once a week, we'll meet up as a team formally. And it's an open invite to the rest of the company as well.
Love that. Thanks for giving us a little peek into what the culture's like at BarkBox. You mentioned Slack. Are there any other tools that you personally just love? Because I know there's literally hundreds that any product developer could potentially use. But do you have any that you in particular like, and why?
Sure, yeah. So I've been in the Google Workspace, the Google Suite, Google Docs. You can't escape. It is fantastic. I think there's a lot of good complementary products or even competitors in the space. Notion is a fantastic tool set too. With product management and where product is headed, writing is very key, especially in this asynchronous remote world. So I find tools like Notion, and I've even played with Coda as well, which is like a Notion competitor. It makes life a lot easier. There's templated, a template for anything that you can think of to create product artifacts, set the strategy, and help out with the execution. And you can customize it to the culture that you want to create. So those tools come to mind. Other ones, I'd say like the add-ons within the ecosystem. So you might find Nuance that create more fun in a lively workspace. So pick your favorite Slack add-on, question of the day, whatever it might be. Wordle is all the craze right now. I'd be surprised if there isn't an add-on. I'm going to look it up right after this. That ecosystem that the tools create, I think that's the other aspect that I enjoy too.
I love that. Thanks for sharing some of those. Just to dive one layer deeper on Notion, are there any particular artifacts or ways that you've used that to help guide the culture, especially as you put it, the asynchronous, all virtual sort of world?
Sure. Yeah. So for me, I use it as a productivity tool. So you can build a Kanban board for anything, and leading product across a variety of different aspects, customer facing and non, a variety of different teams to look over, and keeping my eye on the ball, making sure that we're all aligned towards the company mission and vision. It helps me dissect the various things. And let's go with the Brian Murphy example. I'll know on any given part of the departments, the way that we're organized, any given team, what the top 3 to 5 things are, and if it's in alignment, and if those are the biggest bets that we should be making at any given time. Notion helps me organize that quite well. And I try to broadly share out everything. It helps with open transparency too.
Love that. I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about one of the projects you're involved with, because I'm a huge fan, supporter, signed it myself. Even though my title is not specifically product focused, I wear that hat currently at my startup. So can you talk a little bit about the product manifesto and how that came about?
Sure. So folks in the room, are you familiar with the Agile Manifesto? Are you familiar on how old it might be? All right. So Agile Manifesto, for those who aren't familiar, that really created a wave in the way that you do product development. Particularly back in the day, a lot waterfall. That's a methodology that's fairly top down. You got to figure things out way ahead of time, spec it out before you build it and ship, and you'll find out whether it works or not. A massive size bet. Agile brings you closer to your customers and your stakeholders, and a leaner methodology to figure out what works and increase your chances of success. So that's the background of Agile Manifesto 20 years ago. A lot of fantastic principles, and we felt like we could add a complementary aspect to it. product development, especially now in the digital, hyper-digital age, there's a lot of nuances. There's no right or wrong way, but we felt like we could help companies and people figure out a better first foot forward into product. Believe me, anybody out here, if you are any way, shape, or form shipping something and putting something in front of a customer, you are in product. I don't care if your title is not a product manager. If you're an engineer, designer, I just put product in the front. You're a product person. If you have any influence or control within it, I promise you that's just how I see it. You are a product person. So how can I help? How can our community help you be a better product person? That's the ethos of it. We just want to give back to the community, especially as this accelerating profession picks up and more and more people and companies are seeing the value in it.
Well, and tons of more continued lessons, learning to be found there. Where can people find the Product Manifesto?
Sure. Well, no, don't take my word for it. I think the URL is theproductmanifesto.com. I'll double check. If that doesn't work, try productmanifesto.com or, of course, a Google search.
Awesome. Andrew, thanks so much for sharing. I could ask you questions for another hour, but we don't have the time. So I just want to say thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Matt. Loved hearing your conversation about product development and your mindset, especially coming from the product background myself, building products for AOL with you. It's interesting and to hear this again, and obviously love hearing what you're up to. All right, so definitely somebody we need to know if you're in the product space. You definitely want to go check out Andrew and his social following and everything he's got going on, because he's talking about this stuff all the time. All right, also wanted to mention that if I hadn't already, that the summit that we just heard that conversation from was streamed live. So if you didn't get a chance to attend, you can watch the sessions online. Just go over to soty.link/EST YouTube. It's a lot easier than searching YouTube for the established YouTube account, which is another way to do it. But if you just go to soty.link/EST YouTube, it's a direct link to some of the sessions and the live stream, which you can watch for a couple days, because it went on for a couple days. So hope you enjoy it, and hope you learn something from that. And for those of you listeners that are just jumping in for the podcast and you like this conversation, we appreciate you being here, and we hopefully you learned something and find it helpful. If you did, please do share it or apply whatever you learned, obviously. But share the conversation with someone that you think that could benefit as well. We really believe in sharing and helping each other. So please do so, and sharing is caring. So thanks so much for doing that. And we've come to the conclusion of this episode, so hopefully you learned something, you found it interesting, and appreciated the conversations as much as I did. Remember, if you have a startup idea or you've got a startup, you want to get it going, get it going today. Keep moving forward, make progress, keep swimming. It's a long trek, it's a journey, it's not a overnight success. So keep it going, get it going, and in doing so, I hope you come to us and join our community for access to support, expert advice, resources, and everything you need to help elevate your startup as you get it going. So that's what we're here for. Just simply go to soty.link/apply to join the community, or go to startupofyear.com and you can find the application there as well. Until next time, I'm Frank Gruber. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate what you do, and remember to keep swimming. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening to the Startup of the Year podcast. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll be back with another episode soon.